Sup guys, this is Malona here. As always, we're coming back with another new YouTube video, but this time we're taking another different topic this time. Before, our last video was all about the Guilty Gear collab, but now we want to talk about something that we just all been through. There's something that may be a little less relevant now, but this is the Season 3, let's clarify, Season 3 RTA tier list. So the fact that Season 3 ended not too long ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, no, I think it was 2 weeks ago, right? So Season 3 ended 2 weeks ago, and we just want to clarify what was the meta, what went down, what was so strong, and why were things so dominant. So first, as you can see, the S tier list, we're going to start from the top. S tier list was Fairy Tail Tenebria, General Perkis, Fallen Cecilia, Bazaar, Emma Kral, A Tywin, Spectre Tenebria, Emma Bao, Arby, Falcon Curry, and Landy. The reason why we categorize these guys in S tier list is because these guys were kind of meta dominant, right? They kind of made the meta. So picks like General Perkis were always picked first, FCC was always picked first, and they followed up with, like, let's say the Bazaar, LR Crow, or even the Fairy Tail Tenebria, right? These were units that were commonly picked and commonly shaped the meta. Units that were contested always and always favored, right? Usually you will not see a game without, let's say, at least 3 of these units in the match. And more dominant units were like F10A. This is right, for once, Fairy Tail Tenebria was out of the meta. But because of we knew she was OP, right? Fairy Tail Tenebria was always OP, and she came back during the last day of RTA. Last day of RTA, everyone was just running their Fallen Cecilia with Fairy Tail Tenebria. Reason why is there is no really hard counter to Fairy Tail Tenebria, right? You may have your ER units, you may have Caesarado, but that does not stop Fairy Tail Tenebria. And yes, there's the General Perkis. So 2 units that really dominated the meta were Fairy Tail Tenebria, in my opinion, and General Perkis. General Perkis because General Perkis allowed for the more aggro meta, right? So General Perkis means you bring your Bazaar with you, then you bring your LKC with you, you bring your next Spectre 10A with you. You're just more dominant, right? You just bring aggro and you're running them down. This was a meta that came almost near the end of RTA and stayed dominant till the end, right? Now it's starting to die out, but still a very strong team, especially during the end of RTA. And now A tier, A plus units were units were deemed so close to S tier, but deserved to be a different category from A, right? Units like these were like Blue Crow, SSB, Adventure Ras, Fire Abbey, Viseria, LPC, and Raw. We made this tier list more of as a group because some of these units are not in my unit pool, but these units I do play against often, right? So we just agreed that these units are just really good picks in general, and when picked, it's hard to stop, or when picked, you have to deal with somehow, right? So in general, these units were just very strong units to pick, usually during your end of the drafts. We can go more in depth, but if we want to go more in depth, we could talk about it, let's say, just in the comments, and I can explain why. But yes, we don't want to make this a 30-minute long video, so we're just gonna briefly going through each and every unit. Well, no, we're not briefly going through each and every unit, but we're just going through just the tier list in general. Yes, SSB is a strong last pick. Blue Crow is very good to counter against, like, this in general, LR Crow and like Fire Abbey and stuff. Just like the fire units. Fire Abbey and ARAS are just good against the green units in general. ARAS is good into A Tywin. There's just a lot of reasons for each unit, right? Every unit has a purpose, and every unit up here has a good counter or something they're good into. Viseria, Unbuffable is as strong as always. You can't really stop Unbuffable when they have 2 debuffs, and it's a strip. Super strong, not much to do about it. All you gotta do is cleanse or you heal up. And Ruel is always a scary pick. LKC into Dark, always scary. You guys know the drill. Everyone up here has a purpose, right? They're all good units. Now for A tier units are units that aren't as seen as often. Honestly, most of RTA games could be seen in like just between the S and A plus bracket, right? Most of your games will have these units up here. But A tier units are more like a flex pick, picks that you have geared, and you may just pull out randomly, right? They're good units in the end, but they're just units that aren't as seen as often. Units like some units would be like TLML, right? Top model Ludica. You may only see her against like Rally or something, or into like aggro teams when you have Falcon Curry and S10. You just may never see her in elsewhere, right? Same AD Mirror was a controversy that came up. AD Mirror came in the meta and everybody disagreed that she did not deserve to be A tier. So now that the season has ended, most people can agree that AD Mirror is a good unit, and when she pops off, she pops off. Rowlet, yep, RNG unit, but still good, right? In general, there's not much DPS out there, and Rowlet being one of the decent DPS that you can bring into your comps, still deserves an A tier. Justina being one of the best cleanser out there right now. Not many units are just does her job right. Other units would be like Lilius, but Lilius is not a healer. The reason why I rate Justina so high is because yes, you get unbuffable, right? But you're not getting just unbuffable, you're getting damage on top of that. So because there's units like Clitty Cursa and like let's say Hofine, Lilius, they cleanse, right? But they don't heal your team up. So the fact that they don't heal your team up means that you may not come back in the fight. You still may die to the amount of damage they're dishing out. Diane, underrated pick. A unit that everybody hates playing against. But at the same time, she's super strong, right? If you have 2 DPS, some tanks to support you, and Diane. Just the overall Season 2 draft that came back. Not much ways to deal with it, right? I forgot how we dealt with it in the past season, but she's still a strong unit. OP6, very strong in general as a aggro team. When they have like, let's say, Blue Rose OP6 or like just in general a fast comp and they have attack profile of the OP6, it's just a scary team, right? OP6 can one shot any shield units. Just scary unit, very special, very strong in aggro teams like slow cleaves. We know Politis. Politis is just in general destroys the meta. There's a reason for her being up here. She's not as seen because cleaves is just dying out. The less the meta you use, the less you see of Politis. Lilius, general, just a solid tank, solid bruiser. Someone that I always think has been good and been slowly rising in popularity. I'm not too sure about the current season, but for sure in season 3, we've seen a bit more of Lilius near the end. T-Cern, rare pick. Rana, like just in general, these guys are just more rare, right? You rarely see them, but when they do get picked, there's a reason why they pick like T-Cern, Rana, Ace. Like these are just counter units, right? Or just like units that are good in certain situations. And when they're good in that situation, they really excel, right? And there's another thing I want to clarify too. This is like legend. Like I don't know how other tiers or how other ranks were, but in my experience, and this is how I seen it during the last like week of RTA. In legend, this is what you will see. I'm gonna go through the S tier again in the end just to clarify some things and the reason for why. I think I kind of briefly rushed through them too much. But yeah, we're gonna go through BC and we'll say cleave and then we'll go back to S. So B units are units that you extremely don't see too often, but may picked in like this is like not counter. Like you don't pick them just to counter teams, but like you may rarely see them because a certain team comp just has a weakness. Let's say it may be a counter, let's say, but like it's hardly seen. But they're still decent units, right? Like A-Ravi, just because of LQC, you rarely see A-Ravi anymore. But if they all of a sudden just draft only light units like the MLCrowley Talent again, you can go back to how Season 2 was, right? There's a reason why A-Ravi was so dominant in Season 2. Because there was no answer to dark units at the time, right? The LQC wasn't buffed yet. And she was very dominant into the Golden Boys. Sinji, when used aggressively, Sinji is a very good aggro unit. Played well by some players, they could really know how to abuse Angelica and just use the dual attack. Valencia slowly fallen off, but still strip, right? Yeah, she's able to strip and defense buff. Not as good as before, but when needed, she could get rid of landy buffs or no. Let's say in general, get rid of buffs, right? But besides that, she's not too used as often. Hamilton rising out of nowhere. He's been popular because he fulfills the role that A-Ravi used to fulfill, right? Strong until, let's say, A-Tower and Crow, and with the new General Purgus, he's just strong into like Bazaar, strong to units that don't have DPS, right? Just counters, deals a lot back, and heals up. And the only weak, like he could even survive. Like, well, you don't really pick LQC that often, but he may even be able to survive LQC. But people draft him so that he could stop the CC. They bring up some ER, so they bring him into like Bazaar, A-Tower, and F10A. Get some ER in the Amoken. Can be pretty nasty because he can't die and he doesn't get CC'd. Dilbet came out at the end of the season. She came out to counter F Tenebria. but she didn't really do the job so well. So we just left her here because she does deal with Eftenerio, but not exactly that well, right? Vivian was one of those aggro picks. Rarely see her, but she does well. Like she does well against A-Town and just in general, used to like just push the aggro, right? Acid, just you know, Acid, you guys all know how Acid works. Just use there to like contest for speed 1. Athletica, when Athletica's not as played as too often, but still, you would steer once in a while, just like with Rose. When aggro comps, when they want turn 1, they'll play the Rose or the Athletica. Caesarado has really fallen off. Not as strong no more. It's when used, you bring him to CC, but he doesn't really live still. He still dies in the end. Dark Corvus, nasty when picked. When they have no damage, no threat, you pick Dark Corvus, all of a sudden they have to ban it, or they just die, get sold by him. Okay, and C tier are a list of units that rarely, super rarely get picked. And I'm not even, like, maybe, okay, let's go for them. Ophion, people pick them for Bazaar, Fma, just maybe like anti-CC, but just not as good anymore. Amorin, contest B1, but the fact that she has like 15% on her, and like since Cerise is not as popular anymore either, you really don't really pick Amorin too often. Made Chloe, just a last pick that the Asia players have been pulling out. Just didn't work too well, but still picked, right? Same for Elena. The Asia players pulled her out during the last 2 days. Just try to counter like Elmo Crawl and counter Eftenebria. Doesn't really work out too well, because still gets shut down by Bazaar, right? Fire Charlotte. Some people played her, but it was hard, right? They played her into Landy, Sector Tenebrios. It was just still hard to play because Fire Charlotte's weak to Blue Cow SSB. Same for Charon equally, just very weak to AoE, right? High damage but low sustain. Alright, Cleave meta. The Cleave units at the bottom are units were just that were used for Cleave. Not too seen too often, but we just want to just give them like honorable mention. I'll say, yeah, Cleave. The Cleave spot at the bottom here would just be like an honorable mention. Units that were used in Cleave just doesn't have a home no more, honestly. Okay, we're gonna go back through the S tier. We talked about Ferritineria, not much counter is her, so she's still always an oppressive unit. GP helped out with the aggro comps. Fallen Cecilia was kind of the answer to GP, where you kind of protect your, also same with like protect the queen comp, right? So they go with like Landy, or they go with Spectre Tibia with Fallen Cecilia, just to protect the team, right? Bazaar was so dominant because he was the one that got rid of the buffs, stopped the Fallen Cecilia, stopped the other crowd. Just in general, gave you turn 1, right? Bazaar really going first and just pushes everyone back. So allowed your team to all go before their team. So it kind of just promoted the aggro teams. Outlaw Crow and A-Town are just good units, right? There's not much to say about them. These two Golden Boys are just good units in general. Never a bad time when they're picked. Never, it's okay. They're good at certain unit times, but they're never ever bad, right? You can always pick them, and it never feels bad picking them. Spectre Tenebria is probably one of the main DPS during season 3. Everybody picked her. Everybody loved playing against her. Everyone loved picking her. It was just both ways, right? She dies to the aggro comp, and she's good in the defensive comp. So it's just she works so well in like every comp. It's just there's no reason not to pick Spectre. Sage Bow. Cleaver is nightmare. Sage Bow. Not much else to say. He can even solo teams when needed, but when he does his job, he does his job. And we have RB fallen off from the top, but still a king in DPS roles no matter what. Because sometimes you just pray for Gab. All you need is the Gab, right? You come back to life, Gab again, and then you pretty much like no one really lives that, right? Falconer Curry, I believe Falconer Curry is still dominant as ever. You have no answer to Falconer Curry, right? Once your defense broken provoked, that unit is basically gone, right? She could interrupt teams, she could just lock down a unit, and she helps kills a unit, right? There's really no counter to Falconer Curry. And if you consider Lily as a counter, she's not really a counter to Falconer Curry. It's really a threat as always. And Landy is a DPS that we always said that was gonna be overpowered. Was gonna shine. She's a monster, right? Especially with Guiding Light. There's no way for them to touch Landy under Fallen Cecilia's protection. Nowadays we have to bring Basso or like unbuffable like Basira to Landy. But even so, as like Landy just does so much when they're not ready for her. That's why these units are S tier, because they really shift and dominate the meta, right? Yeah. Hey guys, let's clarify this. This has been the tier list for Season 3's Rush Week. So the last week of RTA in Season 3. The new season now has, you know, more units like Emma Trozit. We're definitely going to see more like Alpha. We're just, a lot of new seasons are popping out, right? So for sure, this is a season about the old season. This is a tier list about the old season, sorry. But don't keep in mind, these are units that really dominate the meta, and you can look forward to looking into like the World Cup. Right? The World Cup is happening this month, and it's gonna be on the patch. Like it's gonna have ammo trolls it for sure in Alpha, but these are units that really dominated that season, right? And you will definitely see in the World Cup. So guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been a Malona tier list making. We do these about 3 times every season. We do it for the beginning of the tier list, middle of the season, beginning of the season, middle of the season, and end of the season. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments, do you have any arguments you want to leave, just leave them down below. I'll answer them and we can talk about it. If anything, you will catch me on Twitch and on Discord. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys around.